That night at the restaurant, my son-in-law grabbed my daughter by the hair and yanked her head back, hard, in front of everyone. And his father, sitting right across from me, slapped the table and cheered. My name is Gary Hartley. I'm 58 years old. I spent 30 years as an industrial electrician. I fix things with my hands. I don't make speeches. I don't lose my temper in public. But that night I stood up, and nothing was ever the same again. My daughter Lily is 32. She's an architect, or she was before she put her career on hold when my grandson Matthew was born. Sharp mind, steady hands, the kind of person who walks into a room and quietly figures out how everything fits together. She got that from her mother, Sandra. We lost Sandra 4 years ago, cancer. Since then it's just been me, Lily, and whatever version of family we could hold together. Lily met Trent Drummond about 5 years back. He was a project manager at a construction firm. Good job, nice clothes, knew how to shake a hand and smile at the right moment. I wanted to like him. I tried. The wedding was simple. I walked Lily down the aisle, shook Trent's hand at the altar and told him, take care of her. He said, always. I believed him. That was my first mistake. The changes came slow. They always do with men like Trent. Lily stopped coming by as much. When she did visit, she was always checking her phone, always apologizing for something. The house being messy, Matthew being fussy, dinner running late. Lily never used to apologize for existing. That was new. Then came the long sleeves. She wore them in April, in May, once in the middle of a July afternoon when it was pushing 90 degrees outside. I asked her once if she was cold. She laughed and changed the subject. I noticed how she flinched when Trent's name came up on her screen, how her shoulders went tight before she answered. I'm a man who spent 30 years diagnosing electrical problems in the dark. I know how to read a system that's about to fail. But Lily always said she was fine. Dad, I'm just tired. It's a lot with the baby. Trent is stressed with work. I wanted to believe her. I nearly did. Sandra would have known sooner. She always said I was good at fixing broken things, but slow to notice when something was breaking in front of me. She was right about that. The dinner was supposed to be a birthday celebration. Matthew was turning 3. Lily had organized it, insisted we all go together. Her, Trent, his parents, and me. One of those downtown places with white tablecloths and candles at every table and waiters who move like they're afraid of making noise. I got there 15 minutes early. Sandra's old wristwatch on my left wrist, same as always. I asked for water and sat by the window and watched the street. Lily arrived on Trent's arm. Something tightened in my chest the moment I saw her. Long sleeves again, her hair pulled back tight. Her smile was the kind you wear for a photograph, nothing behind it. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "You look good, Dad." She smelled like expensive perfume and something I couldn't name. Tension maybe. Trent shook my hand. Cold and quick, he checked his phone before he even sat down. Then his parents arrived. Murray Drummond, 67 years old, loud the way some men get when they've spent a lifetime not being told no. His wife Lorraine walked in behind him with her eyes aimed at the floor. 40 years of marriage, and she moved like a woman who had learned to take up as little space as possible. We ordered drinks, small talk about the weather, about Murray's dealership, about a project Trent was managing on the east side of town. Lily sat with her hands folded in her lap and spoke when spoken to. Then she ordered red wine. Trent looked up from his phone. Slow, deliberate. The way a man looks up when he's been waiting for something to go wrong. I ordered fish, Lily. Red wine doesn't go with fish. Sorry, I wasn't thinking. You never think. The waiter froze with his pad in his hand. I cut in and kept my voice easy. She can order what she wants. It's just a glass of wine. Murray let out a short laugh. Stay out of it, Gary. Trent's right. A wife ought to check what her husband's having before she orders for herself. That's just common sense. Lorraine looked at her lap. I let it go. I swallowed it down and told myself it was just one comment from an old man who didn't know better. I was wrong to let it go, but I did. Then, a few minutes later, Lily reached for the bread basket. Her sleeve slid up maybe 2 inches. That was enough. On her wrist, bruises. Yellow and green and fading purple, the kind that layer on top of each other because there's always a new one before the last one heals. Clear fingerprints pressed into her skin. She caught me looking, pulled her sleeve down fast. Her eyes went straight to mine. Please don't. I didn't. Not yet. But something went cold in my chest right then. The kind of cold that doesn't go away. I barely touched my food for the rest of that dinner. I just watched. Every time Trent spoke, Lily got a little smaller. Every cutting remark he passed off as a joke. Every time she tensed up when he shifted in his chair or raised his voice to make a point. I watched it all and I kept my mouth shut and I hated myself a little more for every minute of it. Then dessert came out wrong. The waiter brought Lily cheesecake instead of tiramisu. Simple mistake. Happens all the time. Lily told him quietly that it was fine, she would eat it anyway. No need to change it. Trent raised his hand before she finished the sentence. Excuse me. My wife ordered tiramisu. The waiter apologized and reached for the plate. Lily put her hand up. Honey, it really doesn't matter. I like cheesecake. Trent set his fork down. It does matter. His voice dropped just low enough that you had to pay attention to hear it. That low register was the dangerous one. I know that now. Are you always going to be this spineless? Please, people are watching. I don't care who's watching. And then he did it. One quick movement. He reached over and grabbed Lily by the hair and pulled her head back. Hard. No warning. The entire restaurant went silent. The kind of silence where you can hear the candle flames. Lily didn't scream. She made a small choked sound, the kind a person makes when they've learned that screaming doesn't help, and tears started running down her face. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Her neck was twisted at an angle that made my stomach turn. Murray Drummond slapped the table with an open palm. That's how it's done, son. That's how it's done. She needs to learn her place. I stood up. I want to be straight about what happened inside me in that moment. I'm not a man who moves fast on emotion. I spent 30 years climbing into electrical panels in the dark, staying steady when things were sparking 2 feet from my face. I sat with Sandra through 14 months of treatment without falling apart in front of her once. I know how to hold still when everything in you wants to move. But looking at my daughter's face right then, her head pulled back, tears running sideways down her cheeks, I was done holding still. I didn't shout. I didn't reach for Trent. I stood up, and that alone was enough to make the table go quiet. Lily, get up. She shook her head, still trying to protect him. Still. Dad, please don't get up. Trent let go of her hair and leaned back in his chair like nothing had happened. Gary, sit down. You're misreading the situation. Am I? Murray pushed back from his chair. This is between a husband and his wife. You're out of line. I looked at him. Then I looked at Lorraine, who was staring at her plate like it might save her. 40 years of that man's table, 40 years of that same silence, and she still couldn't look up. I reached over and took Lily's wrist gently. She tried to pull back. I kept my grip soft but firm. I pushed her sleeve up to the forearm. The bruises were right there, yellow and green and purple, old ones and newer ones layered on top of each other. This, I said, loud enough for the tables around us, is not a stressful week at work. This is not a rough patch. This is abuse, and I'm not sitting back down. Lily was crying. Dad, you're embarrassing me. Those words hit harder than I expected. I won't pretend otherwise. But I didn't sit back down. Trent stood up. I think we're done here. Lily, get your coat. She's not going anywhere with you tonight. She's my wife. She's my daughter. Murray stepped in close. Nancy, you need to calm yourself down before you do something you regret. He called me Nancy. He didn't even know who he was talking to. I paid no attention to it. I looked at Lily. Come with me tonight, you and Matthew. She was shaking her head, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I can't. Matthew is with a sitter. I have to go back. Michael is going too. She stopped herself. Looked down. I understood. She wasn't ready. You can't drag a person out of something they're not ready to leave. I'd learned that much from Diane before the dinner even happened. I'd been talking to a family attorney for 3 weeks by then, ever since I first saw the bruises on Lily's wrist during a visit, and she told me she'd fallen on the stairs. A lawyer named Diane with tired eyes and steady hands who told me straight. Without Lily's cooperation, there's very little the law can do. The victim has to want to leave, so I didn't push. I let Trent walk out with her. I stood at that table and watched my daughter follow him through the restaurant with her head down, and I didn't stop her. The waiter asked me quietly if I was all right. I said yes. It was a lie. I paid the bill. I drove home. I pulled into the garage and sat in the truck with the engine off and the lights out for a long time. Sandra's wristwatch was on the workbench where I'd set it before the dinner. I looked at it and I thought about what she would have said. She was always better with words than me. She would have known exactly what to do. What I knew was this: shouting at Trent in a restaurant hadn't helped Lily. Grabbing his arm wouldn't help her either. If I was going to do something that actually worked, I needed to think like an electrician, find the fault, follow the wire. Don't cut power until you know exactly what's on the other end of the circuit. I went inside. I made coffee I didn't drink. I called Diane at 9 a.m. the next day. I need to know every legal option available to me, I told her. Starting now, tell me what happened, she said. So I did. Diane told me the same thing every attorney tells a worried parent in this situation. Document everything. Stay close. Don't push so hard you drive her further away. When she's ready, be there. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but I trusted it. The weeks after the restaurant were the hardest I'd had since Sandra died. Lily went quiet on me. Her texts came in short and flat. Hi, Dad, all good. Sometimes I wouldn't hear from her for 3 days. I'd send a message asking how Matthew was doing and get back 2 sentences that felt like they'd been read by someone else before they were sent to me. I tried visiting once, drove over on a Thursday afternoon when I knew Trent had back-to-back meetings on the east side. Rang the bell twice before Lily opened the door just a few inches. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. She let me in but kept glancing toward the corners of the living room. That was when I noticed the cameras. Small, mounted high, one in the living room, one in the hallway, one visible through the kitchen doorway. Security cameras, she told me, for the house. Trent checked them sometimes. I didn't say what I was thinking. I stayed 20 minutes, drank a glass of water, talked about Matthew's new words and whether the backyard roses were coming in this year. Normal things. Safe things. When I got to my truck, I sat there for a minute and thought about those camera angles. I'd installed enough security systems over the years to know exactly what they covered. I also knew where the gaps were. 3 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Renee. I was Matthew's babysitter. I have something you need to see. Can we meet?" I wrote back within the minute. We set up a time at a coffee shop on the far side of town, nowhere near Lily's neighborhood. Renee was in her mid-20s. Brown hair, quiet voice, clearly nervous. She sat down across from me and looked around the shop before she said anything. Then she pulled out her phone. She told me she'd been watching Matthew 3 days a week for about 8 months. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. She said the house always felt tense, but she told herself it was just a busy family with a young kid and a lot of pressure. She'd seen Trent speak to Lily in ways that made her uncomfortable, but she didn't know what to do about it. Then one Thursday she arrived early. She had a key. She let herself in because nobody answered the bell and she could hear Matthew crying upstairs. She heard Trent's voice first, loud and ugly, calling Lily things I won't repeat. Then she heard Lily crying and apologizing over and over. She went up the stairs. The bedroom door was open. Trent had Lily against the wall, one hand on her throat, the other raised. Matthew was sitting in the corner of the room watching. He wasn't making a sound by then, just watching. Renee lifted her phone and took a photo from the hallway. Trent saw her. He let go of Lily immediately and came toward the door and told her in a calm voice that this was a private matter between a husband and wife and she needed to mind her own business. Lily came out of the room seconds later with red marks on her neck and told Renee that everything was fine and she should go. Trent fired her the following week. Told her it was budget issues. She slid her phone across the table to me. I look at the photo, Lily against the wall, hands raised, eyes shut. Trent's hand at her throat, Matthew in the corner. I looked at it for a long time without saying anything. Then I asked Renee if she would be willing to testify in court if it came to that. She said yes. She said she'd been losing sleep over doing nothing, and she wasn't going to keep doing that. I sent the photo to myself, thanked her, and drove straight home. That same week, I found the shoebox. Lily had asked me to stop by and grab some of Matthew's winter clothes she'd left in her old bedroom closet. I was pulling a bag off the shelf when a shoebox fell and the lid came off on the floor. Inside was a stack of photographs, maybe 40 or 50 of them. Lily had taken pictures of her own injuries, bruises on her arms, her wrists, her ribs. Every single one had a date written on the back in her handwriting. January 15th, he shoved me into the doorframe. March 3, he grabbed my arm going down the stairs. July 28th, he hit me when I argued back in front of his father. She had been building her own evidence file for years without knowing why. Without knowing if she'd ever use it, just documenting it so she could hold on to the proof that it was real, that she wasn't imagining it, that it was happening. I put every photo back exactly the way I found it, replaced the lid, put the box back on the shelf. Then I called Diane. "I have a photograph from a witness," I told her, "and I think I know where there are 3 years of documented injuries with dates." Diane was quiet for a second. "That changes the picture significantly," she said. "Does Lily know you have any of this?" "Not yet. Gary, she has to be the one to use it. You know that. I know. I'm not going to force anything. I'm just going to be ready." I also started keeping records of my own. Every text Lily sent me, saved with a timestamp. The message Trent sent me from an unknown number after my visit, politely threatening to seek a restraining order if I kept showing up unannounced. He called Lily the wife in that message. Not her name, never her name. I saved that one too. I didn't know exactly when things would break, but I knew they would. Something running that hot, under that much pressure, always does eventually. I just needed to be ready when it did. The call came on a Tuesday morning in January, not from Lily, from the neighbor 2 doors down, a woman named Pat who had my number from years back when Lily first moved into that house. She said she'd heard screaming at around 6 in the morning, said she'd called the police, said Lily was in her front yard barefoot in the cold holding Matthew bleeding from her wrist. I was in my truck before she finished the sentence. I drove to General Hospital with both hands on the wheel and nothing in my head except the road in front of me. When I got to the third floor, I stopped outside Lily's room for a minute, just stood in the hallway with my hand on the doorframe. I could hear a nurse moving around inside. I took a breath and told myself the same thing I'd been telling myself since the night at the restaurant. Be calm. She needs her father right now, not another man out of control. Then I went in. Lily was in the bed with her left arm in a cast, a neck brace, and bruising across her face that made her look like someone I didn't recognize for just a second. Then she looked over at me and she was Lily again. My daughter, 32 years old, and looking at me like she was 8. She said, "Dad, I didn't call you." I said, "I know." She started crying. Not the quiet kind from the restaurant, the real kind from somewhere deep. I sat down next to her and took her right hand, the one that wasn't hurt, and I held it and didn't say anything for a while. Some things don't need words. When she could talk, she told me what happened. Trent had found out she was pregnant again. She had told him that morning. He had gone quiet at first. Then he grabbed her by the throat. She said she saw black at the edges of her vision. She heard Matthew crying in the next room, and something in her shifted. She thought, my kids are going to grow up without a mother, and if I don't leave right now, that is exactly what happens. She grabbed Matthew and ran out the front door in her bare feet. Trent had been arrested at the scene. The charges were aggravated domestic assault and attempted homicide. His bail hearing set the amount at $500,000. Murray paid it. Trent was out within 5 days. But by then, Lily and Matthew were at my house. New locks, new alarm system. Cameras I installed myself covering every angle of the front and back. Diane had everything moving. The shoebox of photos Lily had taken herself over 3 years. Renee's testimony and the photograph from the hallway. The audio from the meeting Trent had called at his house 2 months earlier when he invited me over to talk man-to-man and spent 45 minutes threatening to take the kids and destroy Lily's reputation if she ever tried to leave. He recorded himself better than I ever could have managed. The threatening letter he left at the house when Lily went back with a police escort to collect her things. The prosecutor called that letter a gift. The trial lasted 3 days. I sat in the front row for all of it. I watched Lily take the stand. She sat up straight and told everything in a flat, steady voice. No drama, just facts, dates and details and what happened each time. The jury watched her the way you watch someone you know is telling the truth. Trent's attorney tried to rattle her, suggested she had provoked him, suggested she was exaggerating for leverage in the divorce. Lily looked at him and said, "I kept photographs with dates on the back for 3 years. I didn't do that for a divorce settlement. I did it because I needed proof that it was real." Nobody in that courtroom said anything for a few seconds after that. Trent took the stand and fell apart under cross-examination. The prosecutor played back the audio from our meeting. Trent's own voice, calm and controlled, laying out exactly how he planned to isolate Lily from any support and bury her legally if she moved against him. He had no answer for it. His attorney objected twice and was overruled both times. The jury took 6 hours, guilty on all counts, 8 years, no early release. Full restraining order. Lily got full custody of both kids. When the verdict came in, I didn't feel what I expected to feel. Not satisfaction exactly. More like something heavy had been set down after a long carry. I looked over at Murray Drummond sitting in the front row on the other side, and he looked like a man who had just understood something too late. He didn't say anything to me that day. He came to see me 6 months later after Lorraine passed. Stomach cancer. He sat at my kitchen table and looked at his hands for a while and then said, "I taught my boy wrong. I see that now." I didn't shake his hand, but I didn't throw him out either. I told him if he meant it, he'd figure out how to show it. He's been giving talks at a community center since then. I don't know if it repairs anything, but it's a start. Lily named the baby Victoria. For the win, she said. Matthew is 6 now. He came out to the garage a few months ago and asked if we could build something together. We built a birdhouse, his idea. He wanted to put it in my backyard so the birds had somewhere safe to go. We finished it on a Saturday afternoon and hung it in the oak tree by the fence. Last week I watched Victoria take her first steps in the kitchen while Matthew cheered her on from the floor. Sandra's watch is still on my workbench. Some mornings I put it on, some mornings I just look at it. She would have stood up at that restaurant table too, probably faster than me. If you're a father or a grandfather reading this, and something about this story feels familiar, don't wait for an invitation. Don't tell yourself it's not your place. It is your place. Staying quiet doesn't keep the peace. It just lets the wrong thing keep growing. You don't need to throw a punch. You need to show up, pay attention, and be ready for when your family needs you to stand up. That's the job. That's always been the job.